So like I mentioned, Salim Must Die ended with the main lead, the female lead, which is Tanaz, coming on board. And she and Iqbal are trapped in Pakistan. And Blowback begins, which is the third book, begins with a shootout between these two people and a Pakistani patrol. And they are still trapped in Pakistan. So they remain in Pakistan for a bit of the book, and he's badly wounded already. He gets wounded again. She also gets wounded. And then it shows how they transit through Pakistan, and the aim of that part is to give the story, give them some face time together, and also to show how this was at a point in time where the Pakistani terror groups were coming under one umbrella, because a void had been created with the death of a particular terrorist leader. So it shows them coming together. So the reason for them to stay on in Pakistan was to give the reader an insight into what was happening in Terror Central at that point in time. Then they come back to India, and I bring out the third aspect of terrorism, which is what are the HR procedures which terrorists deploy. And it shows exactly the anatomy of how terror strikes were being carried out in smaller cities of India. Could be Ahmedabad, could be Jaipur, could be any of the cities, Lucknow, Surat, whatever. It goes into how you can penetrate a terrorist organization and you can bring it down. So in this, I have given a lot of weightage in Blowback to counter terrorism, how you can actually enter terrorist organizations, gather intelligence, and strike when required. That is the gist of Blowback. Incidentally, Blowback means the unintended consequences of an intelligence operation, which is what happens in the book. And I would not like to give away anything beyond this, because this part of the book is very explosive, and it is one of the fastest moving books of that series. The others also move pretty fast, but this one goes at twice the speed. And this book was the one which received the maximum critical acclaim from those four. So how did I develop the character? I based on one of my ex-girlfriends. Right? No, I'm kidding. I actually created a composite. Okay? And she is a terrorist in the book, but she's an undercover agent actually. And I put together a composite of 7-8 people and created this character. She was very well received, this particular character. I must mention here that I wrote that part of that book at least 4 times. It was very hard to get, for guys, we don't really get the thought process how women think. So I started trying to get a glimpse of how they do by rewriting this character in many ways. Okay, firstly, please understand, like I mentioned, I had formatted all 4 books. So I already knew that in book 3, the size of the canvas would reduce. So I again expanded the size of the canvas by delving a little more into the human aspect. Not just the man-woman relationship between them, but actually getting into their heads to see what you feel, what you think. It's easy to, in a book, it's easy to think of a guy who becomes a counter-terrorist. But just put yourself in the shoes of a person who is in a foreign country. Everybody he meets is an enemy. What is happening to this mind? What is happening to this person? So I actually exploded the canvas of Blowback by going more into their minds. And possibly because it was so different from Salim, the way Salim was different from Lashkar, that people actually read it as a new book altogether. And that is one thing I must tell you, that due to a very good editorial support which I got, each of these 4 books can be read in any sequence, and each can be read as a standalone and still works. It's not that you need to read Lashkar to understand Blowback. You can actually read Blowback. A lot of people have done that, but eventually they will read it in sequence again. But some people have started with Tanzim and gone back to Lashkar. So I made sure that the canvas remained as big. And also I must point out that my endeavor is not to write a better book than the previous one, because I'm already writing to the best of my ability at this point in time. My endeavor is to write something which is different from the previous one. I don't want people to say, oh, this guy's got a formula and he churns it out by the formula. That's why each book I select a different topic, I select a different canvas and I go with that. It has to be different. So that's what I did. And it worked pretty well. I have no idea. I will have to ask HarperCollins and get back to you on that. I genuinely do not monitor this on a daily basis or even a yearly basis. You must understand, I've got 12 books out in the market. I would rather spend my time and energy in writing the next one than worrying about how much it is selling in Pakistan. Inshallah, if it has to, it will sell. If it doesn't, also good. So book 1 had a lot of human emotions in play, Lashkar. Book 2 was very technical in construct and deliberately in design too. Book 3 again brought human emotions back because it was also time to start balancing. You know, the canvas can be either technically constructed or used human emotions. So book 1 and 3, the canvas was larger where the human emotions were concerned. 2 was almost completely driven clinically because that's the way that those strikes have to be delivered. There was human emotions there was a fair amount, but not to the extent. And also in book 2, Salim Must Die, I had worked more on developing the character of Colonel Anbu. But in book 1 and 3, it was basically Iqbal and Tanaz, the female lead. And I personally didn't see any disconnect in my head because, like I mentioned, each one was already plotted out and each one was also viewed by me as a standalone book. The highlight is when it comes out in print and I walk into the bookstore and I see it in the bestsellers section, right? That's the highlight of a book. But you see, a thriller has to begin with the reader caught in the flow instantly. I personally don't believe too much in setting up, other than Salim Must Die, where because of the technical construct I had to invest a couple of chapters in setting up the story. Otherwise, normally my stories begin, for example, Lashkar begins when the strike is being executed. The strike is already launched. It's caught in mid-flow. So the reader is in it right from there. And the ending in all my books is, I make sure it is explosive, generally very unexpected. So that keeps the, the lingering thought which my readers feedback to me is that, oh, we keep wishing it hadn't ended. And that I believe is the hallmark of a good story, when you believe that it shouldn't have ended. So it also creates that the lingering want for the next one. That's how I did it.